And welcome, everyone. It is Angelo Robles, and welcome to my Family Office TV and my private membership group, SFO Continuity. It is a Friday afternoon here in lovely New England. I'll be heading off to Wyoming a little bit later in July, and it looks like I'm going to be doing something very intriguing in person. As I think many of you know, I'm very intrigued by ranch land and cattle from a variety of perspectives, including as an investing perspective. And I might be doing a live in Montana, wearing my 10-gallon Stetson black cowboy hat for sure at an actual ranch with a ranch owner and who effectively him and his family are a family office. So that's definitely going to happen at least digitally. It looks like in August, but hopefully in person. I have some other announcements, which are all positive and extremely active this summer for me. So that will be at the end of the live today. And although I won't quite do it on air, it is my house. I don't want to make it smell too much. It's Friday, it's the afternoon. It's been a long but interesting week. I will light up and smoke my cigar. So that will happen. We'll wait for that to be a little later. So today, a little bit of an impromptu live. It's a follow-up on my survival of the family office debate, Robles and McLaughlin, from earlier this week. I had a very enjoyable time hosting and participating in survival of the family office debate, Robles and McLaughlin, really the first ever of its type that I've done. And I know not traditionally a debate with a third party moderator, etc. And maybe we even agreed a little too much towards the end. I got to make sure next time just to be a little more controversial. But the concept of hosting debates in a community where too much is opaque and we don't do that is not good. Like I said, even to McLaughlin coming on, and I've known him for years, that if it was in person, no matter how much we yell and argue, when it's over, it's over. We hopefully learned, we shake hands, we go have a couple of beers. And Jamie, I don't know if you're really into cigars, but next time I see you, I will bring one for you. So I do want to thank Jamie McLaughlin for participating and sharing his views. I mean, he was mainly wrong, but of course, besides that, he's very smart and a worthwhile competitor. So for a first debate, wow, I really started at the top there because McLaughlin is quite a force. Like I did note on this topic and others in the family office, more specifically single family office community, I am very open. Share your ideas, yourself and others that would like to have an interesting, sparky discussion. Let's call it a debate. I want to do more of these because I think the industry needs it. Debates are great. If you're wrong, you learn. And don't forget, you already know what you know. You need to attempt to know what you don't know. I am a strong believer in strong opinions, but weakly held. So I really enjoyed my debate earlier this week with Jamie. And there were some things that caused me to, of course, reflect, to talk to some family offices and others, and maybe pontificate a little bit more than in the flow of a debate and the energy and to some degree the limited time. So first of all, again, kudos to Jamie. And sure, he should do the same thing. He should probably, once I post it, I'll be officially posting it on Monday. So those of you that want to watch it again or haven't seen it yet, I'll do the announcement on my socials, and it'll also be on my YouTube platforms, both at Family Office, go and subscribe, and at Family Office TV. Of course, also go and subscribe. And I think if Jamie does a solo without my interruptions, just a reflection post interview, I think that would be good. Now, here's what I will throw out also to all of you. As you have a chance to watch or listen to it, and perhaps this now as kind of a follow-up where you'll get more context, that it's a little harder to do with given time limitations, etc., during the actual debate. I would like for you all to submit into me or Jamie, but DM me, email me, whatever, questions that you would like thrown out there for either me and or preferably both of us to answer. And I would love to have Jamie back maybe the last week of August, and those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions, let's throw ourselves into them. At minimal, I'm happy to maybe share a video or Jamie maybe a more written response to them. So bring that on. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's all in good nature, but Jamie and I are kind of strong-willed. We're both a little loud-voiced, and but I hope it found it engaging. So in the meantime, in addition to a strong case for the small single-family office, I'd like to extra make, for lack of a better word today, and I have some ideas I guess you could share. First of all, it's a little simplistic, but I may, because I think Jamie is going to do this, define a small single family office as really sub $1 billion. Now we could argue that, but let's go with that assumption. So the big picture, and I admit I am putting some words you could state in Jamie's mouth. I think Jamie doesn't think that sub $1 billion single family offices are effective and efficient. He likely thinks they're too costly for the mediocrity in services and results. In other words, his belief is that scale and being of more institutional level and rigor, and I would argue layer and layers of hierarchy and bureaucracy do matter. So I strongly disagree with that. That does not mean that I don't think there are differences in multi-billion-dollar families compared to smaller. And there is more complexities with more trust and family members. And we'll touch upon a little bit of that today, but that would likely be more of a concept for an upcoming discussion. So I'm going to say that smaller, which again, I know some of you may be chuckling with $1 billion family is small, but the principles to a single family office, in my opinion, apply to even at 75, 100, 150 million. And some of those principles we will go into today. So they absolutely can thrive. Now, are they is perhaps a different story. And that is where maybe some others, Ron Diamond and Jamie, will agree that they're not optimized or as exceptional as they could be. But there's a big difference of our perspectives here. I think SFOs have significant challenges, often by their own doing, that I did mention a couple of days ago. The lack of rigor, standard systems, and optimized best practices in their management. So not so much from, let's go with the word, outside forces. It's their own doing for non-excellence. However, I think, in my experiences being in the community for decades, knowing 2,000 family offices, having traveled the world and consulted and worked with them in a variety of different ways, I think, just me, that these are relatively easily addressed. The SFO, single family office, is the gold standard for exceptionally wealthy families who desire, and what did I pound home over and over in the debate? Because you really can't argue with it. Privacy, control, and customization. And importantly, families, whether it's a politically correct term or not, I do not care, that want family continuity, which they all do, and in my words, want to build and maintain or foster the opportunity for a family empire. I believe that the finance establishment wants more and more of their business, especially the smaller family office, implying that they want to wrap complexities around what I deem to be really, honestly, not so hard. They want it shrouded in secrecy so that they can hold, quote unquote, the keys to the kingdom. And that smaller families, even up to 1 billion, maybe even to some of their perspectives, 2 or 3 billion, can't do this and should disband because they're not effective, they're not efficient, and quote unquote, how much does it cost? Again, like I stated in the debate, that was one of the latter questions. I think that's the wrong question to be asking. But these are all subjects that we'll kind of dive into today. So broadly, my commentary from that and the asset management and often aspects of the MFO community is I say this is nonsense. Now, like I did state during the debate, I think there are incredible people that are service providers, that are vendors in the community, and that are even asset managers and MFOs. Some of them are incredibly talented and dedicated. And a single family office, even for maybe a multi-billion-dollar family, although maybe I wouldn't get it, is not going to be for everyone. And I understand single family offices are going to need banking and other services. I completely get it, completely. But I think the idea that the New York, the Wall Street establishment, and we have the secret sauce to how it's done, we understand how the world works, you don't. So just give us your business. Don't worry about it. We got you covered. Is complete nonsense. Now, me being somewhat of a wealth creator, being a little bit opinionated and hard-headed and a bit type A, like that doesn't suit me well at all. And I completely disagree with it. Understand this comment. Everything else is a poor choice when compared with an exceptional single family office. That does not mean that they're not outsourcing certain things or having outside context. Being too siloed and effectively groupthink is a problem. Now, I did a couple of programs on confirmation bias, on groupthink. These are all big challenges and problems, but not really the purpose of our discussion today. So, in my opinion, and I know there's going to be massive disagreement here, I just don't think it's that hard. And no, it's not that hard for even smaller sub-billion-dollar single-family offices to go from objectively, qualitatively mediocrity to good. Now, from good to great, exceptional, as Jim Collins writes about, arguably that 10% chasm, okay, that's going to be more difficult, but it's possible. This is practice management, best practices, systems, processes, and rigor. And I have a whole masterclass dedicated to a top 1% single family office. I'm actually revamping it this August, and the new updated version will be available exclusively, well, to my members as part of their membership, and others could purchase as effectively a 24/7 access and one-off. If you were to do it prior to mid-August when it gets revamped, you get the updates for a 3-month period. So you're all kind of covered anyway. So the fallacy is that scale, bigger is better. That, well, I don't know. Not necessarily. I say it could be a detriment and albatross to being nimble, fast, and creative. There are layers and layers of hierarchy, of bureaucracy that flies in the space of the spirit of, in my opinion, especially the smaller sub-billion-dollar SFO, that especially if the wealth creator or creators are still around and still active, they are hands-on. And now they're replacing, you could say, the family business with, to me, something even more important, another family business, arguably the family office, holdco, and philanthropic initiatives, that is their legacy in the hands, the continuity, and effectively, yes, managing their capital. I think sometimes we try to take away from, well, is a family office, is it really an investment family office? Is it this kind of family office? Yes, there are multiple types of single family offices. They all should be involved in governance and other more hands-on work with the family than investing, although sometimes you do want to have different entities for a variety of reasons that we will get into some of them, dedicated more as a true, quote unquote, separate investment office. Part of that relates to carry and or equity given to investment professionals. And Jamie did bring up a good point. There are some people that are going to be very entrepreneurial on the service provider side, primarily in investing, that need more than just a bonus and carry. They need to have a piece of equity. It's just who they are. And it is absolutely in investment structures and holdcos in even a modest size or small family office to do that. So in my opinion, the layers of hierarchy, including, this is going to be very controversial in the community, over governance, overcomplicates matters, sustains the system, feeds the beast of complexity for outside services, and it becomes effectively a cycle. I am a huge advocate of governance. how decisions are made. But when you have, and I'm going to get to this, layers and layers inside and outside the family of various stopgaps, you lose every entrepreneurial spirit and the ability to be quick. And an advantage of a smaller family unit, relatively speaking, and a single family office. And I'll tell you from my experience around the world, when you outsource, when you have over reliance on hierarchy and bureaucracy and layers, it makes the family fragile. It makes the family fragile, the complete opposite of what you want in anti-fragility, which is building capacity and capability in the rising generations, which is why I'm a huge advocate of creating, of buying, maintaining, and controlling private companies. You roll up your sleeves, you get your hands dirty in how the world really works, and I think there's a tremendous value and benefit there. Now, there are some big picture questions. Jamie brought up one of them actually early in the debate. I mean, he didn't really tackle it. It's a pretty good question that I'm going to kind of hold off to a different program. But the question is, what is a single family office, or more definitively, a single family office? Now, the classic dictionary definition, it's a private entity created by one family of great wealth with internal resources, including its people, 24/7 dedicated to that one family. But I think the concept is what I hinted at earlier. Is it really more of an investment office? Is it a traditional multifaceted, quote unquote, single family office? Or some, probably 5 to 10%, are really more of a concierge office for the family, which is fine. It's not for me to define what's going to be right for you or underlying the anchor family. That's a decision that you would have to make. But I do think that concept of asking what is a family office, specifically, he might have meant what is a single family office, how do you define it, I think is a very good question. I think another question that relates to another 2-hour podcast, how do they operate? So those are all things for future discussions. Back to the controversial comment that I made earlier. Of course, governance is important, which is effectively how decisions are made. And really, is a mission and vision statement that hard? I mean, when I asked Jamie about an IPS, investment policy statement, he made it sound like it was the hardest thing in the world. Now I'm putting a little bit of some words in his mouth there, and we're going to get to that a little bit later as well. A mission and vision statement is easy. Stop overcomplicating things. Now, should there be, depending on the size of the family, from literally potentially their assets, how their assets are dispersed, number of family members, number of units, number of LLCs, entities, and trusts. So yes, I get it. This can get complicated. I didn't say it was that easy. And for larger families, and maybe, again, generation after generation and billions of dollars, it's a more complex process, but it's worth it. And that's the advantage that a single family office could provide. But back even to the so-called small sub-billion-dollar single family office, you'll see families with family councils, owners councils, board of directors, advisory council, investment committee, comp committee, tax committee, etc., etc., etc. It almost becomes a little bit laughable, especially if it's relatively the wealth creator still alive, hands-on, is active in the decision-making and effectively chairman of, let's call it, the family office. Now, again, that brings up another discussion, which I'm talking, so those of you live, I'm going to be interviewing, again, the iconic attorney in the family office world, Tom Handler, this upcoming Tuesday. We're going to talk about family office trends, holdcos, private trust companies, and a variety of things relative to structuring. I know some of you may find that boring, but it's really, really important things. We will bring up this topic as well. I am not laughing at or discounting any of those things. They're all kind of important. Family councils, owners councils, advisory councils. We get a little too carried away with them. They create levels of hierarchy and bureaucracy that often aren't needed, and they can be streamlined, is what I'm saying. And a more intimate family unit may not necessarily need all of them. Again, does this keep people employed? Does it help employ outside services? I guess I don't want to be contributing to further unemployment and challenges we're having here in the country. I'm just stating that the industry is opaque. Some of you have effectively been lied to, or maybe more applicably, been misdirected, have been misled, and you overcomplicate things. It doesn't need to be that way. I've seen relatively straightforward single family office holdcos and private trust companies. All, by the way, are easy. I know, because like I'm creating them. Like I know what it's like to go through the process, to have, a younger generation in my side and all that. I get it. It's just not that hard. Just gonna flat out being honest with you. So again, there needs to be questioning, in my opinion, the layers and layers of complexity and bureaucracy. Do you think that this all protects you? I mean, do you? What did I say earlier about it makes you more fragile? Which, in my opinion, it very well could. So the whole concept of the so-called smaller, especially now sub $500 million SFO, it absolutely does make sense for some families. And I know some of you are going to pull up old videos of me, if it's not 750 million liquid, you shouldn't have a single family office. Well, my opinion changed. I was wrong. Lender versus the IRS created the framework for how to structure the entity of the SFO management company with the assets and resources, how to ownership structure, how it's intertwined, non-bloodline key executives. And it's a combination of factors. We'll go into some of that with Tom Handler. Also, watch my interviews with Rich Levine and other attorneys, really all in the last year. And this is the anchor. It's important to all things relative to family office, especially single family office. But the ability to properly structure and to get tax advantages that I can't get strictly as an individual allocator and investor is very important. That coupled with tech, coupled with selectively, and I guess with a smaller SFO, there may be certain things you may have to outsource more. And then you kind of become more of a virtual single family office. I have strong opinions about that. And I'm a little bit questioning if most so-called virtual and AKA remote family offices are honestly really that good, but they potentially could be. I just think they're harder because everything really revolves around people. Your people are more dispersed, especially if they're younger and need a little bit more handholding. I think that simply becomes harder. So it's never been easier for a so-called smaller family. So again, don't be fooled. And by the way, our live participants, you're all too quiet. Being on the questions, the comments, the hate, I don't know, like whatever it is. You don't always just have to DM or email me or call me. Participating live in these kind of things is helpful as well. So I don't know if Jamie brought it up and I hinted at it there. Yeah, of course, tech is important. So a tech stack. It's just not that hard. The fact that I see some admittingly larger family offices where it takes them years to make a decision and implement, that's sad. And that's another advantage of being relatively smaller and nimble. There is some incredible technological solutions that absolutely families in a variety of ways should be looking at that could help them make tactical risk management and investment decisions and have better reporting and broadly of services in general. They are important. And are you just going to do this all internal? Well, no, there's experts, and I'm going to get in trouble for leaving some out, but people like Aaron Holtz, Mike Perez, Tanya Neal, they're wonderful. They're not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're going to be worth their weight in gold. And unlike others that take forever to make a decision, you're, of course, going to move much quicker with them. And they'll like you so much, they'll give you a little extra service as well because you don't fool around. You're here for business, you're here to move forward, and you're going to figure out and utilize it. Stop making it complicated. It is so damn easy, actually. Now I am going back to that word a little bit. So let me get this right. You are better off not having a single family office if you could. You're better off not taking command of your legacy and your wealth. You're better off outsourcing to non-bloodline. that's not even within a family controlled entity. So you should be outsourcing, and often probably the most common of an anchor service to a family is like investing or CIO services. Like that's not free. And they're going to be just so guarded, so careful, so safe, so placating to institutions. And now, because they're seeing an opportunity to get money from especially sub-billion-dollar families, they're repackaging their marketing to be attractive to family offices as if their services are better than what a family could do internally, especially when you got someone who's smart as a wealth creator who can make active and real decisions. Now, I don't want to overly make this an investment-centric discussion. I cover that a moderate amount in my debate with Jamie and a lot of my other programming. It's just not that hard. I buy T-bills, I buy gold, I buy the triple Q and beat the majority of most active managers. I like certain select decisions on a thesis that I form on some of the Magnificent Seven and other stock. I buy some bonds, I buy some Bitcoin, I buy waterfront homes, I want to buy ranches. Do I need, this is easy. It is easy. There's certain themes and verticals where I do need to develop a proper holding company with talent that either I work on and develop, I bring from outside, it's an operator, and I move forward, I put my money to work, and I make decisions. Like, it's just, and there are certain circumstances, I'll even bring it up from 5 to 7% to 10% of outside managers that are damn good. And they could help to diversify and get alpha in a portfolio that you're going to have a hard time duplicating. And for some of them, is going to be really, really good to allocate to. But again, like the examples I brought up with Jamie, I'm sorry, the majority of VC world out there, the triple Q is going to kick your butt. Now, I think someone did bring up in the chat feature that one, you know, Angelo, you're likely right over time, but suppose the timing's real bad. I wake up one day and my portfolio's down, like in parts of 08 or 22, in 2020 with COVID, it's down like 20, 30%. Yeah, that could be scary. Are you a long-term investor or not? Do you have some level of diversity or not? Do you have liquidity? Could you hedge certain risks? Could you use banking relationships to hedge certain stock and other long equity portfolios? And again, you heard me say it a million times, and I come from not a single family office family. This is easy. You learn it. You start to get active doing it, and you just do it. I mean, come on. Like, this is I guess the industry doesn't want you to know. They want to keep the facade that you need them, even as a billionaire, or even saying things to you in a family office like, you need us, you need this, you need that. And again, sometimes you do. Sometimes they're really, really good, and you should be doing work with them. But more often than not, that's not the case. Layers and layers of bloat, bureaucracy, a variety of factors. And shockingly, you could often do it cheaper internally. Now, do you want to? That could be a different story. Do you want to just, liquidate your company, go on a boat and relax and outsource everything? If that's what you want to do, that is cool. That is okay. Go and do it. But you are not, depending on if you have family and bloodline, you're not, in my opinion, taking charge and going to have dynastic wealth. Oh, the industry did what? So good in 2008? The government had to bail their butts out. Silicon Valley and other banks did good last spring? No, they didn't. You overrate these organizations for the most part. Single family offices. Now, yeah, especially some of the really large ones of billions and billions that combine with other families and doing massive direct deals and changing the world in private credit and lending. Yeah, they will be a force and an absolute threat. All things to meaning to the so-called GPLP community of the current funds, GPs that are out there, a subject for a bit of a different time. As I mentioned, for families of this scale, buying and controlling private companies is simply, in my opinion, usually better than being an LP in a PE fund, if done right. You have the money to source the right talent. Don't be fooled that you don't. If you have a single family office, you got capital. you're investing in 2 and 20, you're paying out of the back end of that 20. Start to be more focused, strategic, and smart on how you could bring people in internally and have that privacy, control, and customization that you want. And there are, like I said earlier, investment structures and LLCs and real estate and other strategies and holdcos where you could give talented people that may need or insist on equity, not simply just bonus and carry. Okay, it's pretty cheap for the legal staff, especially if you got that internal to design that. And I think there's a gent called The Rock. Of course, that's a great name. Thank you for all your kind comments, The Rock. I do appreciate it. I hope you're going to have a great weekend, and I will a couple of puffs of my lovely cigar to you. So thanks for all your kind comments. Now, like I said, are there some deals out there that you want to access and funds that have wonderful, talented people? So yes, certain families are going to love to get into so-called hot and proprietary deals, and having the right people, then that's building your network as a family and as a single family office, and knowing how to get early on with the right people in Silicon Valley, in whatever, in New York, and other aspects of the community. So it's not just you being siloed and doing it all your own. I'm not really saying that. I'm just saying that we make this more complicated and we add layers and layers of bureaucracy and hierarchy that are simply not needed. I mean, I don't know, maybe if you're tens of billions of dollars and 400 family members, yeah, that's going to be really, really complicated. And that's a lot of fun to work on those. And the single family office and varying entities are still, obviously, especially for them, going to be the best option. I mean, a secret, but not really a secret for the super rich, is that you can access most of again, these deals, the right people, and even access to certain funds that are awesome that you think you can't get into. Sometimes it simply is just knowing the right person. I have some examples among my current membership that I could give, but now is not the right time to say that. But there will be some upcoming programming, even more broadly to the public, like here on my Family Office TV, that I will do dedicated to that. So I did promise I would bring up, because it probably was, although I felt it wasn't the most important point, probably where Jamie and I probably had the most spark of disagreement, was that, his belief that really the pros are needed for the complexities of an IPS, investment policy statement. I strongly stand by the aspect of no, absolutely not. It is relatively easy. Is it important? For sure. Should it be done correctly? Yes. Now, here's where it does get a little complicated. Suppose it's a larger family unit with multiple different interests, trusts, and various branches of the family, various trustees, and it may need different investment policy statements and asset allocation strategies. So not just one or even two or three, maybe a lot. That is more work. Technology is going to help, proper record keeping, and that is going to need to be kept up. So yes, we are making it more complicated now, and possibly rightfully so, because it literally may need that as various, again, like I said, entities and a variety of family units and involvement may have different perspectives and risk tolerances. But again, we do not need to make this more complicated than it needs to be. And absolutely the investment policy statement and asset allocation is the providence of the single family office if you have one. You don't outsource that out. That's terrible. I mean, maybe you outsource some of the investing allocation by being an LP, if that's going to be your thing. And again, I do think there are some LP structures where it's very fine for a family to allocate and be a part of. And some, they should even make a purposeful effort that may be hard to get into. Those are the ones they want to get into. And with the right network, not always about money, there's a variety of other factors potentially you could. Again, to me, talent really in the family office, it's the industry misleading you. SFOs have the resources and the ability, if they want, to attract and retain the talent, period. Are some family principals too frugal? Yes. then honestly, if you're not going to be great in having a family office, then don't have one. Then I probably agree. Then just disband it. So I really only care about principals and those in the family office that strive for excellence, that want to be great, that want to really be the best they can be. And that's what I want in my private club of SFO continuity and the relationships that I work with on a consultative basis. I don't want mediocrity. What's one of the common statements that I always make? Mediocre family offices want to be left alone. Of course, they don't want the spotlight shined on them for their mediocrity. So if McLaughlin says that, I think he's kind of correct. Good ones want to be mentored and great ones want to be told the truth. And I want to be told the truth. I may disagree with the perspective of where that truth is coming from. I really look to get internally in these kind of more internal type debates. And I try not to be too hard-headed because it's easy for us to get anchored, to have confirmation bias, to have recency bias. There's so many different problems, I guess, as human beings that we do have. Damn it. I think part of it is at least recognizing what they are so we can look to address them. And without question, the number one determinant of a successful single family office is the people. From the family, their ability to have the buck stops with them and to make decisions, to the people that they hire. And the people they hire, damn it, they need to be paid well. Incentives do work. They work. The people that are talented, that are loyal to you, they deserve to get paid incredibly well. And if you're a family that's going to be cheap and frugal, then I do not want to work with you. I don't. It's not going to work. Luckily, I'm only looking for 30 founders and SFO continuity, so I do not need the world to love me. As I stated earlier, I think the vast majority of active managers, and it may change with interest rates, say the last year and a half being higher, but I haven't seen it in the results of active managers outperforming. They're getting their butts kicked, mainly by the Magnificent Seven. You take them out of some of the indexes, it goes down a lot. But again, I mentioned before, things like T-bills, I'll even argue private credit, gold, Bitcoin, public stocks, single family homes. I can maybe even argue CRE, commercial real estate, and private companies and verticals that you develop expertise in and or bring in the talent and operators. And yes, I'm going to stick by. It's not as hard as others make it out to be. So in kind of coming to a conclusion, I want disagreement. It's okay. I don't mind rocking the boat, and by being ahead of the curve, by being both, I hope, a historian, but also a punch of revolutionary in me, and be able to see around corners means I am going to be early to sometimes. I am going to make mistakes, and I do. I do in my personal and my business life. So these are all discussions that I enjoy having. I want your feedback. I want people you would recommend that would want to come on, even if it's more singularly on a specific topic, even if it's 20 minutes and not like an hour and 35 minutes that I did with Jamie. So I want to have these discussions. I want to have these debates. I want to do these things more often. There are some that you would know in the industry where I made the offer to them, and I'm happy to go on their platform and share it with my network. But I don't know if I'm that tough of a debater. I think McLaughlin's probably pretty much almost about as hard as it's going to get. But again, I'm pretty capable, I would hope, in my capability and my ability to be extremely passionate and I guess some would say obsessed with single family offices. So someone has to be. And like someone said on here a couple of days ago, Angelo, you're conflicted. Your bread is buttered by single family offices. You're going to think they're great. I think there's a degree of truth to that. I think we all have inherent conflicts. Let's be open about it and wear them on our sleeves. But again, I'm the first to admit that many single family offices are mired in mediocrity. But I think it's up to them to realize that, to work with people like me and others and to get better. And they could, often without even really a change in personnel. Sometimes going from good to great, there may need to be a little bit of a change up. But again, we could save that for a bit of a different time. I'll share some upcoming content and programming. And again, a reminder, I hope you're all enjoying the summer. I'm incredibly active and busy this summer. Look up, again, AngeloRobles.com. Make sure to follow me on YouTube at Family Office and Family Office TV. I would love to see more interaction and engagement in my socials, my LinkedIn, my YouTubes, my X, formerly Twitter. And again, make recommendations on people to debate, make introductions. It could even be yourself. Recommend questions after watching the one I did with Jamie and or this in conjunction with it, how it could be improved, where you think I'm wrong, and that's okay. I'm happy to listen to the other side. And you're right. I mean, I'm not right all the time. I'm occasionally wrong. And if you think there's a topic relative around this in asset management and SFOs, then bring it on. And by the way, some people think I'm, bashing MFOs. Well, I think the concept of MFOs is a marketing gimmick for the most part, and I think many people will effectively agree with me on that. But there are some incredible, real multifamily offices out there that have incredible people, incredible talent, and I've seen them get on the cap table and do some really good things in private deals. Actually, I've been kind of impressed. So there's some out there. Keep up the good work, because I'm impressed by what some of you are doing on that. And it's okay if that's a little bit of competition, maybe on smaller sub-billion-dollar families to the SFOs. And there are going to be some MFOs that are so good, or some SFOs that just don't have that in them and want to put in that amount of work. It potentially is going to be potentially a good option. So go to AngeloRobles.com, maybe look into my masterclass and consultative programs. And if you're a family or SFO, there still is room left to be a charting member in my SFO continuity, where you get my proprietary and exclusive content, the interaction with my already incredible members. I've been so fortunate in terms of who I have, and the fact that wickedly busy. Already did, like I said, 7 events in June, 3 upcoming here in July, a minimal of 2 in August, and then we'll really rock it again in New York and hopefully LA in the fall, and then really turn our attention to Palm Beach, Miami, and maybe a little more LA for the late fall into winter. I do realize that face-to-face is still very, very important to people, and where we could have real open discussions, often just privately among us as peers, but there are times where bringing in incredible people from the industry allows us to grill them and bust their chops a little bit, but to learn from their content and education and see where there could be some common synergies. I did mention some things upcoming, like the defining a family office. What really does a family office do? And to some degree, they're a snowflake, they're different. Yes. Now you can kind of bucket them a little bit, but there are going to be certain nuances. I'm still active hosting with my members, mainly around my breakfast meetings, our 10X investment discussion. We have an Unstoppable Heirs program that we're going to share some content publicly on, but a lot of it's going to be more dedicated to my members, and really always working on content on structuring in family offices, holdcos, and value that we're providing, not just in content, but in person this summer. We're going to be having a little thing that I may announce on LinkedIn, kind of what do you all think could be the next black swan or tail risk, if you want to call it that? And what could family offices do? Is it going to be China invaded Taiwan? Well, that would be a big challenge to NVIDIA and part of my Magnificent Seven. Now, I do have some strong thoughts about that, but why don't we kind of hold that off a little bit? I still get people that reach out to me like, how do I raise capital effectively from family offices? I wouldn't say that's my core thing at all, but I would have some advice on that from families that I talk to on your behalf, saying, what would you like when someone approaches you or reaches out to you that they could do for you, as opposed to them always asking you for something? And that value, then you're going to have a favor in return. So we'll have something coming up on that. I mean, approaching family offices. These are all things that I guess there's content and resources, even those in the community. And it may be a little more consultative on my end, where I could provide value And yes, I did hint at it earlier. How do you access and get into the top hottest deals, even if you're a sub-billion-dollar single-family office? And even, yeah, shockingly, me saying this, some of the top funds that supposedly you're either too small or they're just way overbooked. There can be techniques to help that. There's some other comments that came in. Mohammed, thank you so much for your kind comments. There may be a last minute or so, those of you that may want to type anything in terms of to the chat feature. If that is about it, everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. I appreciate all of you so much. I could just about take off my suit and tie and relax and enjoy this cigar. I hope you're all doing well. Come at me with ideas. Come at me with things we could enhance and improve upon. Come at me with other debate partners, and let's do it. Like, I'm not afraid of doing potentially a live, especially a simple 30-minute one, debate after debate after debate, like every day. I think that would be fun. And trust me, I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm going to put in some work tonight. I got work to do this weekend. I got families to talk to. And how could I tighten up my argument, my thesis? Where could I challenge where I might be wrong and need to be more open-minded? And other subjects among the unstoppable heirs, the 10X investment strategies, and really best practices in the family office that I'm living and I'm breathing 24/7. And it feels like, again, all this work after 20 years, I still say, and I deserve when the time comes to be buried in a white belt. Always be learning. It's something that we may have to fight against, and Lord knows I have that challenge sometimes. There's a lot to learn because even some things are not mathematical. 2 + 2 is 4. Some things are built really strongly around our thesis for how the world works and how things work, and not understanding how things are different now and how things are changing. And that is sometimes where I think the old guard and the establishment gets caught in a little bit of how things used to be. Doesn't mean they need to be that way or should be that way moving forward. So here we are. Thank you again, Mohammed and others, for your comments. I do appreciate it. I will be doing some travels, not just here in the US, to Wyoming and Montana. I would like to take another trip to the Middle East soon, back to Europe this December. Any ideas of family offices and people like I did in Europe where I could interview, in studio or on the spot live? That's always a lot of fun. So hopefully you're liking some of the unique content that I'm happy to give away on Family Office TV and other platforms. But if you really want the real deal, you have to join and be a part of SFO continuity. So go to angelorobles.com. And why don't you just, if you're qualified, sign up and jump right in. We are hyper busy this summer. And next week, for those of you that are live, I think we have upwards of 3, and I may do some impromptu solos like this. My interview with the iconic attorney, Tom Handler. We are going to get deep into family office trends. We got the return of former retired Green Beret E.M. Burlingame. And we're going to go into some scary stuff on sovereign risk and disaster preparedness, especially as there's a lot of unrest around the world. And that is an absolute, very deep threat to family continuity. No matter what else you're potentially doing right, that could be a grave challenge. And we look among the other topics that I covered to have a special guest. I have 1 or 2 planned to come on. We'll be covering a little bit later in the summer things like ranch land, private trust companies. We got an incredible guest from UBS as kind of their internal family office thought leader coming up the week after next, and we'll be going deep into a lot of issues and topics with him. So this will be a lot of fun, a lot of things to cover. Thank you all so much. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you.